Hi again then guys, and welcome to the 44th place pick out of my top 50 favourite vehicles in the world for 2018, and this one is a car which we spoke about recently on the channel in Project Gotham 4 in particular. It's a car which I loved as soon as I saw it on, I believe it was Top Gear for the first time when Hammond drove it very briefly on the show, and the car itself is pretty brief as well in a similar way to the MG SVR, which was also in this series. And the car in question is a small, no surprise to anyone, British car. Of course it looks British, it's British Racing Green, and it's a Vanwall GPR V12. Now this car, as I mentioned in that Project Gotham video, had an unfortunately troubled production run, or more specifically a lack of a production run, because as far as I can remember there's only one of these. It had a projected price of about 50 to 70 grand, which is fairly expensive, especially at the time, but nowadays when you're looking at 60, 70, 80 grand for something like a Ktm Crossbow, it actually doesn't sound so bad, especially when this car has a significantly more impressive engine than many other cars in this kind of category. Because this small, single-seater, open-wheel style sports car is much closer to being a true race car for the road than many of its rivals actually are. The Ktm is not a race car for the road, it's a pure kit car in its origins from Lotus. The KTM Crossbow is not a race car for the road. It wants to be, but it's not. The Caparo T1, which is a whole nother level, that's pretty close to it. That's like a combination of Formula 1 and LMP. And then you've got some crazy Australian ones like the Elfin Clubman with a massive V8 engine, but that's more like an open-wheel muscle car in a funny kind of way. And then you've got stuff like the Ariel Atom, the Brook Double R, which is very visually similar to this, the Grinnell Scorpion, of course, as well, very rare, and a variety of others. Plus then you've got all the clones and rip-offs like Westfield, Deronda, a variety of others. But this one is one of the most unique, and it's genuinely unique. It's not just a riff on someone else's idea, because for one thing, this car's design comes from literally half a century before pretty much all of its rivals, apart from the Ktm, which of course was the Lotus 7 way back then. This car was also made back then by the same company, Vanwall, and it was a Grand Prix car, a Grand Prix winner, in fact, back in, I think it was 58. Now, the engine in this car is gorgeous. It's a big Jaguar V12, about 5.3 litre or so. Horsepower is quite good, around 360, 370, so quite a lot for a car like this. Quite a lot of torque as well, and it sounds fantastic. It doesn't have the high-pitched whines or thumpy kind of boxer sounds of something like an Audi engine or a Subaru engine, or even a motorbike engine, which is very popular in this kind of car. No, it's much bigger, it's much more brash, more old school, it's got a rich retro sound to it, which I love, and I just love the concept of having this massive V12 engine, but at the same time not a gratuitous engine. It's big, but so is a Zonda, and yet a Zonda isn't considered to be tasteless. It's a suitably large engine. Likewise for the Vanwall, the engine is big, but it's not stupidly big. It's not like the Rolls-Royce Merlin 27-litre V12, which just looks like a caricature. This car doesn't look like a caricature. It looks like what it is, a replica, a modern-day interpretation for the road of a Grand Prix car, a Grand Prix winner. Now, some of the small details that I like about this car, and again, I did mention a couple of these in that Project Gotham review, are the fenders, for instance, the mud flaps specifically. You have to have those for a production road car. So what they did to get around that is they made plastic mud flaps which have the design and the colour of a tyre. So the flaps themselves look like car tyres. I like that. It's a small, simple touch, but it adds to the look. It doesn't draw attention away from the pure cigar shape of the car itself, just for the sake of looking at big, ugly fenders, which wouldn't suit the car at all. I like that. It's attention to detail, and it shows an authenticity to this retro vibe which the car has and should have, understandably so. Now, these were due to be handmade, I said earlier, about 50 grand or more, made to specification for the customer. And it's just a shame, I think, that it didn't get the chance to shine, because obviously the market demand wasn't there. But that seems to be the case for a lot of cars that I really love. A lot of people don't, or at least not enough to actually get their wallet out and buy one. Because I believe, strongly so in fact, that if the Vanwall was released now, it would probably do better than it did when it was released in the, I believe it was mid-2000s. Because now, as I said earlier with the Ktm Crossbow and a variety of others, people are more accepting of higher-priced track day sports cars. Whereas back then, not so much. Lotus was kind of it. And then you had the Ariel Atom come on the scene and a variety of others. But people have become much more climatized to paying true sports car money for these very minimal track day sports cars. So I love the Vanwall. It's definitely a car that fluctuates on my list, but one which I do love for sure overall. So if you are new to this series, of course, you can click through to the playlist at the end of this video to check out all the others. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.